Hello everyone. Is my voice audible, guys?
जी सर।
Okay. So in today's session, let's try to understand about module system in JavaScript. With ES6 module pattern. With ES6 module pattern. So here we have to understand, first of all, what is module system. Then we have to understand what is this ES6 module pattern. What is this ES6 module pattern? So first of all, let's try to understand what is module system. So in JavaScript, module system is a technique to reuse the code. So what is module system? Module system is a technique to organize and reuse the code efficiently. So module system is a technique. It is one of the technique. Now what is the use of this technique? Using this technique, we can organize and reuse the code efficiently. Module system is a technique to organize and reuse the code efficiently. What is the meaning of that? Let's try to understand. Now let's assume that I am creating one JavaScript file. And in this JavaScript file, let's assume that this is our file one. In this file, I have created one function. Let's assume that I have created one function called f1. And in this function, I have written some code. Now, like this, let's assume that we are creating multiple JavaScript file. So we have created file 2, we have created file 3. Like this, we have something called file 4, like that. We have so many files. So all these are your JavaScript files. File 2, file 3, and here I have file 4. Now, if we get a requirement to use this f1 function, in f2 file also, nothing but file 2 also, maybe in file 3 also, maybe in file 4 also. If you get a requirement to use this function in file 2 also, file 3 also, file 4 also. In such cases, if you don't use module system, then what we need to do? Same function we have to create here. Same function we have to create here. Same function we have to create here. In this process, we are recreating same function multiple times. So it's like a code redundancy. So same code you are writing multiple times. Instead of that, what I can do, using this module system, I can create function in one file, and this function I can reuse in this file also. I can reuse in this file also, and even I can reuse this function in this file also. So this module system will help us to share our code of one file with multiple files. So that if you want this function in this file, then this function no need to create here. Directly existing function of file 1 we can call here. This function we can directly call here and use it. Here also we can call and use it. This is what the purpose of module system is. That's why we say that module system is a technique to organize and reuse the code efficiently. Or in some other words, we can say that module system is a technique to share the code of one JavaScript file with another JavaScript file. So module system is a technique to share the code of one JavaScript file with another JavaScript file. And now to use this technique, we have to follow one pattern. So to implement this module system, we have to follow one pattern, and that pattern is ES6 module pattern. That pattern is ES6 module pattern. Apart from this ES6 module pattern, we have one more pattern called CommonJS module pattern. CommonJS module pattern. Generally, ES6 module pattern we use in React.js. It is supported. React.js supports ES6 module pattern. Whereas CommonJS module pattern is supported by Node.js. Even Node.js supports ES6 module pattern as well. There is a difference between ES6 module pattern and CommonJS module pattern. So CommonJS module pattern works synchronously, and whereas ES6 module pattern works in asynchronous fashion. So right now we don't want to go in that depth. Right now we will just try to understand exactly how module system works and how we can use ES6 module pattern to share the code of one file with another file. Now let's explore ES6 module pattern. So if you want to implement module system, then you have to follow this pattern, or you have to follow CommonJS module pattern. Right now we are learning React, so we will focus only on ES6 module pattern because CommonJS module pattern is not supported in React. So using ES6 module pattern, we can implement module systems. Now, as per ES6 module pattern, we can export our code from one JavaScript file, and to use that code in another JavaScript file, we have to import the code. So ES6 module pattern works on export and import concept. It works on export and import concept. If you have two JavaScript files, file 1 and if you have file 2, and suppose in this file you created one function, and this function if you want to use in this file, then what you need to do, first you have to export this function from this file, and to use this function in this file you have to first import it. After importing, we can use it. So now we need to learn how we can export our code from one file and how to import same code in another file. Now, as per ES6 module pattern, there are two ways to export your code. There are two ways to export your code. The first one is named export. Second one is default export. In the same way, there are two ways to import your code. There are two ways to import your code. And it is named import and we have default import. So now we need to learn how to export and how to import, and that too we should know named import, named export, default import, default export. So let's see how we can do that. First, let's understand named import. Also, not named import, we will go with named export first. So to understand this named export, I will create one JavaScript file. So I will go to my Visual Studio Code. We'll open the file, or let's open one folder here. We'll add here something like session 3, and let me open that folder. Now here I am creating one JavaScript file called user.js. Now in this file, let's assume that I am creating one variable where username, and I am storing some name here, something called Rohan Jaiswal. I have one function get user address, and here simply I am adding one console.log. I am saying that user address is displayed, something I am adding. So right now what I have done, I have created one JavaScript file. In that I have created one variable and I have created one function. Now let's assume that we have one more JavaScript file called details.js. Now my requirement is, in this details.js file, I want to use this function. So if you want to use this function in details.js, first you have to export this function. And to export this function, we have two ways, named and default. So now here we are understanding how to export our code like function or maybe variable using named export approach. So if you want to export any code or any statements from your JavaScript file using named export, then just prefix export keyword before your function name or before your variable name. So if you add this export keyword, it means you are exporting this variable from this file. If you add this export keyword before the function name, it means you are exporting this function from this file. Now, in whichever file I want to import this variable and function, I will go to that file. First, I need to import. How to import? For that, you have to write here import keyword, then open curly brace, close curly brace, then add from keyword, and in double quotes, you have to add the path of your file from where you are exporting your function and variable, or you are exporting your code. You have to add here file path of a file from where you are exporting the things. So right now I'm exporting the code from my user.js. So here I have to add that user.js file path. And now in this curly braces, from this file, what you want to import, that you can import. So from this file, I want to import this function. So I will add here get user address. Like this, if you want to import this variable also, then just you have to add comma, you have to import that variable also. But here you have to take care that whatever function name you have, whatever variable name you have, exactly that variable name and function name only you have to take. Now to enable this ES6 module pattern in our folder, we have to do one configuration. And that configuration is, you have to create one file called package.json. You have to create one file called package.json in a folder where your files are present. In that file, you have to add one object. In that object, you have to add a type property and whose value should be module. So this configuration indicates that we are using the ES6 module pattern. If you want to use common JS module pattern, here simply you have to add common JS. So it enables common JS module pattern. If you want to enable ES6 module pattern, we have to add here just module. Now you can export your variables, functions, classes, object, arrays, anything from your file, and you can import all those things in another file. Now here I can call this get user address. Now this function is not defined in this file, it is defined in some other file. And we are calling in details.js. Now if I open my terminal and if I execute my node details file, you will see that I got here result. User address is displayed. In the same way, if I want to print the username, I can do console.log and here I can say username. It will print usernames. Suppose if I don't export this variable. Now here, forcibly if I'm importing like this, now if I try to run, I will get the error. Now see, I got the error. We got here syntax error. It is saying that the requested module from .user.js does not provide an export named called username. So it is saying that from this file user.js, you are not providing username as an export. So if you are not exporting it, you cannot use here. So if I want to use, I have to export it. And prefixing export keyword before our variable name or function name. This approach is called named export. And named export, we have to import in this way. Now here again, if I run, I will get my results. Like this, I can have one more file, something called employee.js. Now in this employee.js, let's assume that I have one object where emp equals to one object. In that I have employee name. Here I am adding something like Priya. Gender, female. And here I am adding ID, something like 107. Now this object I want to export from this file. So if you want to export this object as a named export, then just you have to prefix export keyword. If you want to export this object as a default export, then at the end of your file, you have to write export default space and your object name. So your object name is emp. We can add here emp. So if you add export default at the end of your file, and if you mention your function name, object name, variable name, then this is called default export. Now, if you want to import this in your details.js, I want to import that object. So here in the next line, we can write import keyword. And when we are importing default export, we have to add here one reference. We have to add here one reference. I'm saying something called obj. Then we have to use of, and in double quotes, we have to pass that, not of. Here we have to add from, and in double quotes, we have to add the file path ./emp.js. Now this is how we import default export. This is called default import. So for default import, we don't use curly braces. We use some reference. We can take whatever name you want as a reference. Now this obj will point to this object. That obj, this obj is pointing to this object now. So here, if I do console.log of obj, then the object of emp.js will print. Now this object will print in my terminal. So if I run, now here I got that object. So the difference between your named import and default import is, in named import we use curly brace, and exactly what you are exporting, that names only we have to use. But in default import, no need to use curly brace, and here we can take whatever name you want. You can take whatever you want. You can take like this x also. If I take x, here I have to pass x. Still I will get the result. If you want, you can take same name of the object. Here we have the object name as a emp. Here also I can take reference as emp. And here I can pass emp. Still I will get my result. So the benefit of default export is you can use here whatever reference you want. Now the difference between this named export and default export is, in one JavaScript file, you can have only one default export. You can have only one default export. It means you can export only one thing using default. Suppose here if I have one variable also, where city equals to Hyderabad. Now I want to export this city variable also. Then I cannot write here export default city. I cannot have multiple default exports. I cannot have multiple default export. You can have only one default export per one file. For one file, you can have only one default export. But when it comes to named export, for your one JavaScript file, you can have any number of named exports. You can have any number of named exports, but default will be one for one file. So when to use default? In your entire file, if you are exporting only one thing, it might be variable, it might be function, it might be object, it might be array, it might be class. If you are exporting only one thing, then go with default export. In your file, if you think you are exporting multiple things, more than one, then go with named export. Go with named export. If you want, we can use combination also. Combination means here this object I am exporting as a default. And this variable I can export as a named. Like this combination also we can do. But not recommended to do. Not recommended to do. So this is not a good practice to have both in one file. Either you keep named export in one entire file, or you keep default export, but don't combine both. Even if you combine, there is nothing wrong, but not recommended. It's not recommended. That's why whenever I want to export only one thing from my file, we go for default. In your file, if you're exporting multiple things, go for named. This is the first difference between named export and default export. Second difference, in named import, it is mandatory to use same names what we are using for exporting. In named import, we have to use same names what we are using for export. So if you see here, I am using username, a variable, to export. So while importing also, I have to use username only. I cannot take any name here. I cannot take any other name here. Here we are using function name as a get user's address. Then here while importing also we have to use same get user's address only. But in default export, we have that convenience. So here I am exporting my EMP, nothing but this object. But while importing, I can take whatever I want. Here I can take OBJ also. And here I can pass OBJ. So here this is just a reference which will point to your export value. This is the second difference between named import and default export. Now people will ask when to use named export, when to use default export. Simply you have to say in my entire file, if I am exporting only one thing, like it can be function, it can be class, it can be variable, it can be object, it can be array. If you are exporting only one thing, go with default export. If you are exporting multiple things, then go for named export. This is how we can utilize the code of one file into another file. Now this concept is so important. Once we create React application, every day you will work with this concept. Every day you are going to work with this concept. That much important this concept is. Got it, guys? Anyone have any doubts in this?
सर यहाँ पे अगर पैकेज डॉट जेसन ना लिखे तो क्या इशू रहेगा सर?
ये इनेबल नहीं होगा. You cannot use ES6 module pattern.
मतलब इस मैंडेटरी है, मतलब लिखना है
ब्राउजर
टाइप.
को बताने के लिए कि मैं यहाँ पे ES6 मॉड्यूल पैटर्न यूज कर रहा हूँ, उसके लिए हमें ये कॉन्फ़िगरेशन करना पड़ेगा. तभी
अच्छा
तुम्हारे ब्राउजर को और Node.js को पता चलेगा कि ये ES6 मॉड्यूल पैटर्न है.
अच्छा, टाइप में मॉड्यूल के साथ और दूसरा कौन सा वैल्यू है सर?
कॉमन JS. ये दो वैल्यू यूज कर सकते हैं. कॉमन JS मतलब कॉमन JS मॉड्यूल पैटर्न, जस्ट मॉड्यूल मतलब ES6 मॉड्यूल पैटर्न. So by default, your node and browser supports common JS module pattern. अगर ये ऐड नहीं करोगे package.json तो वो हमेशा common JS module pattern नहीं सोचेगा. तो तुम्हारा import और export वर्क नहीं करेगा. If I remove this, now if I try, I will get issue. It is saying that cannot use import statement outside a module. I will get some issue here. So things will not work. So now we have to tell to our Node.js and browser that I am using ES6 module pattern. So allow this export and import kind of things. How to tell? Just you have to create package.json file, add one object, add type key, and value should be module. Now save. Now again run. It will work. Okay, we call it as a configuration. Right now we are doing manually configuration, but when we create React application, we don't do this. Internally React will do. So you need not to worry there. Okay. Yeah. So guys, I have decided one thing. Like we have that React JS series, right? So in that, I have totally 9 videos. So I just want you guys to go through all those 9 videos by this Sunday. So by this coming Sunday, you try to complete those 9 videos in case if you did not complete. But I think most of the people have already completed that 9 videos. So I just want you guys to complete in case if you did not complete by Sunday. So that from Monday, I will continue from there. Because repeating same thing will be waste of my time and waste of yours also. Anyways, I have updated those videos. So that videos will be only on the YouTube. So from here, whatever sessions I will take, I won't update that videos on YouTube. I will be sharing recordings to those people who said yes in that form. Remaining people can attend live session and they can learn the things. So from Monday, I will be continuing from that session. So anyways, today's session is like a 10th video for that particular series. But this video I won't upload on the YouTube now. Today's session I won't upload on the YouTube. So this I will share with all those people who just said yes. Now tomorrow we have the session. Tomorrow and day after tomorrow also we have the session. But we have practice session. Tomorrow and day after tomorrow we have the practice session. So we are going to practice on React element concept, JSX concept, functional component concept, and props concept. So next 2 days, you will have a practice session on these topics so that it will be like revision for you. And from Monday, as I have mentioned, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I will take live sessions. And then Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, you will have multiple sessions. You will have practice sessions. You can have mentoring sessions. You will have dot solving sessions. And then you will have mock interviews. The people who are interested, if they want to give mock interviews, they can give mock interviews. Interview questions will be discussed. So like that, some plan we are creating. So on that Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, you will have such kind of sessions. And again, those sessions will be allowed only to those people who said yes. So the people who said no, for them, only live sessions are allowed. So live session they can attend without paying anything. I will be sharing the link on daily basis on our channel, plus on our community group. Notes I will share. So the people who said yes, for them, I will be providing recording and I will be providing the mentoring sessions to them. And very soon, maybe within 10 days, I am starting with a real-time project batch. So that output I will show what we are going to develop. Then you guys will have clear-cut idea exactly what project we are going to develop, what features we are going to implement on that. So it will be very big project, which will take almost 1 month to build. And that project I will build in front of you from 0 to complete 100%. Everything I will build and show you in the class. And with that sessions, we are going to learn so many new things also, like Tailwind CSS I will be adding. I will be adding their React forms, React query, Redux. I will be explaining Node.js, how to create REST APIs with Node Express, how to use MongoDB. All those things will be covered there. So anyways, whenever that starts, I will explain that part. I will take one session and I will share that. Yeah, so this is what I wanted to explain, guys. Yeah. So tomorrow we will join for this practice sessions. Yeah, guys, if you don't have any doubts, yeah, you guys can leave. So we will go like this very slowly, but we will understand everything in very depth. So the moment I enter into advanced concepts like state, then routing, then your API integration, there I will be going very slow. I will be explaining each and every step by drawing the diagrams. And we are going to take multiple examples so that you will be perfect with the concept. Yeah, that's all, guys.